In the small village of Kiseljevo, nestled deep in the Serbian countryside, there stood an abandoned mansion that had been shrouded in mystery for generations. The mansion, known as Villa Vukovic, was a majestic structure with its faded white walls, ornate carvings, and tall, arched windows that peered out into the surrounding forest. But despite its grandeur, locals avoided the mansion like the plague, for it was said to be haunted. Legend had it that Villa Vukovic was once owned by the Vukovic family, who were known for their immense wealth and eccentricities. They were said to have indulged in dark and forbidden practices, dabbling in the occult and conducting sinister rituals within the mansion's walls. Their wealth and power seemed to shield them from any repercussions until one fateful night. On a stormy winter's eve, as the wind howled and rain lashed against the windows, a tragic event unfolded within Villa Vukovic. It was said that a young girl named Mila, who worked as a maid in the mansion, had fallen in love with a local boy against her family's wishes. The Vukovics, furious with her disobedience, locked her in the mansion's tower as punishment. Days turned into weeks, and no one saw or heard from Mila again. Locals whispered that she had been consumed by madness, screaming and wailing into the night. Some even claimed to have heard her desperate cries for help echoing through the dark corridors of Villa Vukovic. But despite the villagers' fear and curiosity, no one dared to venture near the mansion, fearing the wrath of the vengeful spirit that was said to haunt the place. Years passed, and the once grand Villa Vukovic fell into disrepair. Its walls crumbled, and its windows shattered, but the stories of its haunting persisted. Many claimed to have seen eerie apparitions, heard strange noises, and witnessed inexplicable phenomena around the mansion. Some even reported being chased by a ghostly figure resembling a young girl, her eyes burning with rage and sorrow. Intrigued by the tales of the haunted Villa Vukovic, a group of adventurous thrill-seekers decided to spend a night in the abandoned mansion, armed with cameras and recording equipment, eager to capture evidence of the paranormal. As the night descended, they ventured into the decaying halls of Villa Vukovic, their flashlights flickering in the darkness. As they explored the mansion, they felt an oppressive presence, as if they were being watched by unseen eyes. Strange sounds echoed through the corridors, and the temperature seemed to drop unnaturally. They captured inexplicable orbs of light on their cameras, and their recordings picked up whispers and laughter that sent chills down their spines. As the group ventured into the tower, they were overcome by a sense of foreboding. The air was heavy with an otherworldly energy, and the temperature dropped even further. They heard faint cries for help, and their cameras malfunctioned, capturing only static and distorted images. Despite their fear, they pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air, and the group saw a figure in a torn and tattered dress, with wild hair and hollow eyes, standing before them. It was Mila, the long-lost maid who had been locked away in the tower all those years ago. Her spirit was tormented, trapped in the mansion, seeking revenge for the injustice done to her. The group tried to flee, but the mansion seemed to come alive, with doors slamming shut, and furniture moving on its own. They stumbled through the dark, disoriented and terrified, as the vengeful spirit of Mila pursued them relentlessly. Her anguished cries echoed through the halls, and her presence grew stronger with each step they took. The group's equipment malfunctioned further, with their flashlights flickering and their cameras capturing distorted images of Mila's ghostly figure. As they made their way through the dilapidated mansion, they stumbled upon a hidden room in the basement where they discovered a chilling scene. The walls were adorned with macabre symbols and candles, and a pentagram was etched on the floor. It was clear that the Vukovic family had indeed dabbled in dark and forbidden practices, and Mila had fallen victim to their sinister rituals. Just as the group realized the truth, Mila's spirit appeared before them, her eyes blazing with rage. She let out a heart-wrenching scream, and the room shook with an otherworldly force. The group was thrown to the ground, paralyzed with fear. Mila's ghostly form floated above them, her voice filled with anguish as she recounted her tragic tale. She had been locked away in the tower by the Vukovics, who had used her in their occult experiments. They had performed dark rituals, sacrificing her in a bid for immortality and power. Her soul had been trapped in the mansion ever since, seeking revenge on those who had wronged her. The group listened in horror as Mila's ghostly form flickered and wavered, her sorrow palpable. They realized that they had inadvertently disturbed her restless spirit by intruding into the mansion, and they were now at her mercy. They pleaded with her, begging for forgiveness and promising to right the wrongs that had been done to her. Mila's spirit hesitated, her eyes filled with sadness. But then, with a mournful expression, she vanished into the ether, leaving the group shaken and trembling on the floor. The oppressive atmosphere in the mansion lifted, and the group hastily made their way out, vowing never to return. From that day on, Villa Vukovic remained abandoned, a grim reminder of the tragic tale of Mila's ghost. Locals still spoke of a haunted mansion, but none dared to venture near it again. It was said that on dark and stormy nights, Mila's ghost could still be heard wailing and seeking vengeance, forever trapped in the mansion that had become her eternal prison. The mystery of Villa Vukovic in Kiseljevo, Serbia, remains unresolved to this day. Some believe that the mansion is cursed, and that the malevolent spirit of Mila continues to haunt its halls, seeking justice for the injustices done to her. Others think it's just a local legend, a story passed down through generations to caution those who are tempted to meddle with dark forces. But those who have experienced the chilling presence of Mila's ghost swear that the mansion is indeed haunted, and that the tragic tale of Villa Vukovic is a real ghost story that continues to send shivers down their spines. Rumors about the haunted Villa Vukovic in Kiseljevo, Serbia, spread far and wide, drawing the attention of paranormal investigators, thrill seekers, and skeptics alike. Local legends told of strange occurrences around the mansion, with reports of ghostly apparitions, eerie sounds, and unexplained phenomena. Some claimed to have witnessed shadowy figures lurking in the windows, heard disembodied voices whispering in the halls, or felt icy drafts in rooms that had been empty for decades. Intrigued by the tales of Villa Vukovic, a group of researchers decided to investigate the paranormal claims surrounding the mansion. Armed with their equipment, they ventured into the decaying building, determined to uncover the truth behind the ghostly rumors. As they set foot inside the mansion, they were immediately struck by the oppressive atmosphere. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding, and the temperature seemed to drop unnaturally. The group's equipment began to malfunction, with their E&F meters going haywire and their cameras capturing bizarre anomalies. They made their way through the dark and dusty corridors, guided only by the faint glow of their flashlights. The once grand mansion was now in a state of decay, with crumbling walls, broken furniture, and cobwebs covering every corner. The oppressive silence was broken only by the creaking of floorboards and the distant howling of the wind. As they explored further, they stumbled upon a locked door that seemed to emanate an otherworldly energy. With trembling hands, they forced the door open, revealing a room that sent chills down their spines. The walls were adorned with occult symbols, and the air was heavy with the scent of incense. In the center of the room, they found an old wooden table covered with a tattered black cloth, upon which lay a weathered book. Curiosity piqued, one of the investigators reached out to touch the book, only to recoil as a surge of energy shot through their body. The book seemed to come alive, emanating a malevolent aura that filled the room. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them, trapping them inside. Panic set in as the group tried to force the door open, but it remained stubbornly locked. The temperature plummeted, and their breath came out in visible puffs. They could hear whispers in the air, faint at first, but growing louder and more insistent with each passing moment. The investigators realized that they had stumbled upon something far more sinister than they had anticipated. It seemed that the Vukovic family had delved into dark and forbidden practices, dabbling in occult rituals and summoning forces beyond their control. And Mela, the young woman whose spirit was said to haunt the mansion, had fallen victim to their twisted experiments. Just as fear reached its peak, the room was suddenly filled with a blinding light. The investigators shielded their eyes, unable to comprehend what was happening. When they dared to look again, they found themselves standing outside the mansion, with the door wide open and the book gone. Shaken and disoriented, the group quickly left Villa Vukovic, vowing never to return. They had witnessed something beyond their comprehension, and they realized that they had disturbed forces that were best left undisturbed. The mystery of Mila's ghost and the dark secrets of Villa Vukovic remained unresolved, leaving a haunting legacy that would continue to captivate the imaginations of those who heard the story. Over the years, the rumors about Villa Vukovic persisted, with more stories of ghostly encounters and strange happenings. Locals spoke of Mila's spirit still roaming the halls, seeking justice for the atrocities done to her. Some claimed to have seen her apparition, a sorrowful figure in a flowing white gown, wandering aimlessly through the decaying rooms of the mansion. Others reported hearing her wailing cries in the dead of night, as if she was still trapped and tormented by the dark forces that had claimed her soul. Visitors who dared to enter Villa Vukovic after dark spoke of unsettling experiences. Some felt an icy grip on their shoulders or heard whispers in their ears when no one was around. Others claimed to have seen shadows moving in the corners of their vision, or felt a palpable sense of malevolence that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the mansion. Despite the warnings and the growing reputation of Villa Vukovic as a haunted place, there were those who remained skeptical. They dismissed the stories as mere superstitions and the product of overactive imaginations. Some even dared to spend a night inside the mansion, scoffing at the notion of ghosts and curses. One such skeptic was Marco, a young journalist who had heard about the legends surrounding Villa Vukovic and was determined to debunk them. He decided to spend a night in the mansion, armed with his skepticism and his camera, ready to capture any evidence of the paranormal. As Marco entered Villa Vukovic, he felt a chill run down his spine. The air was heavy with a sense of foreboding, and he couldn't shake off the feeling that he was being watched. He set up his equipment, including cameras, voice recorders, and EMF meters in different rooms of the mansion, determined to capture any abnormal activity. As the night wore on, Marco started to feel uneasy. Strange sounds echoed through the corridors, and he caught glimpses of shadows moving in his peripheral vision. His EMF meter spiked inexplicably, and he heard whispers in his ear when he was alone in the room. But Marco remained skeptical, dismissing each experience as a trick of the mind or a natural occurrence. He was determined to find a logical explanation for everything he encountered. However, as the night deepened, Marco found himself drawn to a locked door that seemed to radiate an otherworldly energy. Against his better judgment, he forced the door open, and what he saw made his blood run cold. Inside the room, Marco found an altar covered with candles, an old book, and symbols etched into the walls. The air crackled with an oppressive energy, and Marco could feel his heart pounding in his chest. Ignoring the warning signs, Marco approached the altar and picked up the book. But as soon as he touched it, a sudden gust of wind blew out the candles, plunging the room into darkness. Marco felt a sharp pain in his chest and a sense of overwhelming dread. Frantically, Marco tried to leave the room, but the door slammed shut, trapping him inside. He fumbled for his flashlight, but it flickered and died. He was plunged into complete darkness, alone and terrified. Suddenly, Marco heard footsteps approaching him, but he could see nothing. He felt a cold breath on his neck and heard a haunting voice whispering his name. Panicked, he tried to unlock the door, but his hands were shaking too violently to be effective. In desperation, Marco screamed for help, but his voice seemed to echo into oblivion. The air grew colder, and the oppressive energy in the room intensified. Marco was overcome with a sense of hopelessness, realizing that he had underestimated the power of the paranormal. Just as Marco was about to give up, the door burst open, and he stumbled out into the hallway, gasping for breath. He ran through the dark corridors, feeling a presence right behind him, urging him to leave, but unable to shake off the feeling of being pursued. He could hear footsteps echoing through the halls, growing louder and closer with each step he took. His heart pounded in his chest as he raced through the dimly lit mansion, trying to find his way out. As Marco reached the grand staircase, he heard a blood-curdling scream that echoed through the entire mansion. He turned to see a spectral figure in a flowing white gown standing at the top of the stairs, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. It was the same apparition that others had claimed to see, the ghost of the woman who had died in Villa Vukovic years ago. Marco's skepticism crumbled as he realized he was face to face with something beyond the realm of the natural world. He tried to back away, but his legs refused to move. He was paralyzed with fear, unable to tear his gaze away from the ghostly figure that floated down the stairs towards him. The ghostly woman reached out a hand towards Marco, and he felt a bone-chilling coldness enveloping him. Her voice echoed in his mind, pleading for him to leave, to escape while he still could. Marco could feel the malevolent energy that lingered in the mansion, a dark force that sought to trap him forever. Summoning all his courage, Marco broke free from the paralysis and turned to run. He raced down the stairs, stumbling in his haste, and made a mad dash towards the front door. But just as he reached for the handle, the door slammed shut with a resounding bang, leaving him trapped inside the mansion. Marco's heart sank as he realized he was trapped. He could hear the ghostly footsteps closing in on him, and the oppressive energy of the mansion pressing down on him. He knew he had to do something to appease the spirits and escape the cursed Villa Vukovic. In a moment of clarity, Marco remembered the book he had found in the locked room. He retrieved it from his backpack and started reading the ancient incantations written within it, hoping it would appease the spirits and break the curse. The air crackled with energy, and the ghostly figure drew closer, but Marco persisted, pouring all his concentration into the incantations. As he reached the final words of the incantation, there was a blinding flash of light, and the mansion shook violently. Marco felt a surge of energy coursing through him, and he could see the ghostly figure dissipating before his eyes. The oppressive atmosphere in the mansion lifted, and Marco knew he had succeeded. With trembling hands, Marco pushed open the front door, and this time it swung open easily. He rushed out into the night, breathing in the fresh air with relief. He looked back at Villa Vukovic, now shrouded in darkness, and knew that he had experienced something truly extraordinary. From that day on, Marco was no longer a skeptic. He had witnessed firsthand the existence of the paranormal and the power of ancient curses. He vowed to share his story and warn others about the dangers of meddling with forces beyond their understanding. As for Villa Vukovic, it remained a place of mystery and intrigue, with whispers of its haunted past still circulating among the locals. Some claimed that the mansion was forever cleansed of its dark energy, while others insisted that the curse still lingered, waiting for its next victim. Marco, however, knew the truth. He had come face to face with the supernatural, and his life was forever changed. The legend of Villa Vukovic would live on, a cautionary tale of the perils of disbelief and the mysteries of the unknown. Marco became a renowned paranormal investigator, dedicating his life to researching and documenting supernatural occurrences around the world. He traveled to various haunted locations, investigating and uncovering the truth behind the legends and stories that had fascinated him since his encounter at Villa Vukovic. He wrote books and articles, gave lectures and interviews, and gained a reputation as an expert in the field of paranormal investigations. Marco's work took him to all corners of the globe, from ancient castles in Europe to abandoned asylums in America, from haunted forests in Asia to ghostly shipwrecks in the Caribbean. He encountered numerous spirits, entities, and phenomena that defied explanation, further solidifying his belief in the existence of the supernatural. Throughout his investigations, Marco encountered skeptics who doubted the validity of his findings, just as he once did. But he remained undeterred, armed with his knowledge and experiences, and continued to unravel the mysteries of the paranormal world. One day, Marco received a mysterious letter from a remote village nestled deep in the mountains of Eastern Europe. The letter detailed strange occurrences in a centuries-old castle where locals believed a powerful curse had been unleashed. Intrigued, Marco packed his bags and set off to investigate, eager to uncover the truth behind yet another haunted location. Upon arriving at the castle, Marco was immediately struck by the eerie atmosphere that hung in the air. He could feel the weight of the curse that seemed to permeate the walls of the ancient structure. As he delved deeper into the castle's history, he uncovered a dark tale of betrayal, revenge, and tragedy, all pointing to the existence of a malevolent spirit that haunted the castle. Undeterred by the challenges and dangers that lay ahead, Marco embarked on a thorough investigation, utilizing his expertise in paranormal research. He conducted seances, performed rituals, and used advanced equipment to capture evidence of the supernatural activity. He experienced unexplained phenomena, including apparitions, strange noises, and intense temperature drops, but he persisted in his quest for the truth. As he delved deeper into the castle's history and the curse that shrouded it, Marco discovered the tragic story of a former lord who had been wronged and cursed by a vengeful witch centuries ago. He also uncovered the spirit's motive for seeking revenge and causing unrest in the castle. Drawing on his extensive knowledge and experience, Marco devised a plan to appease the spirit and break the curse. He performed a series of rituals and ceremonies, invoking ancient incantations and making offerings to the spirit. The atmosphere crackled with energy, and Marco felt the weight of the curse lifting. In a climactic moment, the vengeful spirit manifested before Marco, its fury unleashed in a spectral form. But Marco stood his ground, and with great empathy and understanding, he communicated with the spirit, acknowledging its pain and grievances. Through his words and actions, Marco was able to appease the spirit and help it find peace. With the curse lifted, the castle was transformed. The oppressive atmosphere dissipated, and the locals rejoiced in the return of their beloved landmark. Marco was celebrated as a hero, and his reputation as a renowned paranormal investigator grew even stronger. Marco left the castle with a sense of fulfillment, knowing that he had once again witnessed the power of the supernatural and helped bring resolution to a haunting. He continued his work, investigating and documenting paranormal phenomena around the world and sharing his knowledge and experiences with others. In time, Marco's work and research helped bridge the gap between the paranormal and the scientific community, leading to new discoveries and understandings about the mysteries of the unknown.